Is there a supernatural dimension? A world beyond the one we know? Is there life after death? Do angels exist? Can our dreams contain messages from heaven? Can we tap into ancient secrets of the supernatural? Are healing miracles real? Sid Roth has spent over 35 years researching the strange world of the supernatural. Join Sid for this edition of It's Supernatural.
Hello, Sid Roth here. Welcome to my world, where it's naturally supernatural. I just love the rarefied air of heaven. I mean, I'm addicted to the rarefied air of heaven. I want more and more, and I want you to have more and more. My guest has uncovered an amazing cover-up by our government, by the Smithsonian Institution, to hide the evidence that Darwinism is a phony. And he's going to expose it to you because it's about time this evidence is presented to our society. So, LA, who's your friend?
Well, Sid, this was a skull, a cast of a skull, which we got in Paracas, Peru. We saw literally hundreds of these down there.
But you know what's so amazing, and we'll get to that in a minute, but this skull is not completely human. You see, many years ago, God gave LA a mandate, and he told him to study as the days of Noah. Explain what that is, and explain what you found out from your studies.
Well, Jesus tells us it will be like the days of Noah when he returns. And of course, that points to the fallen angels coming down in Genesis 6, having sex with the women, and the offspring are the Nephilim. And I believe that this is a Nephilim skull.
Means the giants.
Well, that was one of the characteristics.
Ah, okay.
Later on, I think they became different characteristics.
Okay, now these Nephilim, and you know, I've always wondered, I don't know about you, when you've studied the Bible, you see God says, destroy all the people in Canaan, destroy all the people in Sodom and Gomorrah. Why would God not have mercy on any of these people? There's a good reason. Explain.
Well, the reason simply is this, that we're dealing with a demonic hybrid known as a Nephilim. I believe there were many different incursions, if you will. Genesis, you mentioned, of course, Sodom and Gomorrah. Later on, when they push into Israel, the land of Canaan, who were there? The Nephilim are there. And the mandate is always the same.
Now again, the Nephilim were the fallen angels had sex with human women and produced these giants and these hybrid, if you will.
Hybrid, sure.
Okay, and if God could not get rid of them, they take over the earth.
Well, not only that, they would pollute the genome of the Messiah. That's really is the end game, especially in Genesis 6 with the flood.
Okay, now you have found some amazing research in newspaper articles from the 1800s and 1900s about these Nephilim. Tell me about it.
Well, I believe that they're Nephilim. We know that 150 years ago, as settlers pushed westward, they found burial mounds. And at first, everyone thought these were Native Americans. Well, they would dig into these mounds, and they would find 9, 10, 11 footers, sometimes with 6 fingers, double rows of teeth, copper ornaments. These were not, and red hair. These were not indigenous Native Americans. Then when you talk to a First Nation Native American, they'll tell you that, oh no, there was a race of giants that predated us. They were here when we arrived.
And I've never heard that. I always heard it was the Native Americans, but this is that even the Native American folklore and history tell me one of the things you heard about this from Native Americans.
Just one of the things, the Paiute tribe, for instance, there was a race of cannibal giants. They were very large, and the Paiute would fight against these giants. And at one point in time, they herded them into a cave, and they set the mouth of the cave on fire, and they wiped out that tribe of giants. Interestingly enough, that cave still exists today.
Tell me about the Smithsonian and the bones that they have found of what could be the Nephilim.
Sure. We discovered that case after case after case, 9, 10, 11 footers were found, and the Smithsonian shows up. And they confiscate the bones, and they put them in crates, and they're carried away, never to be seen again. And we have case after case after case.
But if I was the Smithsonian, that would be my major exhibit. What could possibly be the reason that it's been taken from public sight?
Well, the reason is actually very simple. The Smithsonian adheres to a Darwinian paradigm, a Darwinian worldview. They believe in Darwinism. Anything that comes up against that, anything that comes up against it, must be put aside, dumbed down, just completely cleared off the table. And this, of course, goes against the Darwinian theory, because where did these people come from? It's not the Beringian land bridge, that when the Ice Age and they came across the Bering Strait, that blows that whole theory out of the water. These people came from something else. I believe that the tribes in North America and in South America are the remnants of the Nephilim tribes that Joshua and Caleb pushed out of the Promised Land when they conquered it about 3,500 years ago.
But wait a second. If they killed all the population, how could they migrate then to the United States? They didn't
kill all the population. It would stand to reason, as they begin to move in to the Promised Land, the giants see what's happening, that the Israelites, first of all, have the power of the Most High God, and they are annihilating all the tribes. So the Amorites, perhaps, and maybe the Perizzites over here, some of these guys go, we got to get out of here. Some flee northward, and we have a trail that we believe follows that. Some flee across the Atlantic Ocean. And the workings of Thor Heyerdahl, for instance, proved that you could sail just on the currents from Egypt and wind up in South America.
But you know what? There's even greater documentation than that. You're going to find out about an entire communication system way before the internet, about architecture that no one could have known back then. When we come back, we'll explain. Are partially human.
Well, this skull here looks sort of human, except of course it's elongated. You can see the way the sides of the skull go up. A normal human skull consists of 4 plates. A frontal plate, and by the way, these are sutures here. A frontal plate, then you would see another suture that would go and split the parietal, which is the center plate, in 2 pieces. Mm-hmm. Well, and then of course the occipital, the rear plate. What you see here is a frontal plate, which has been greatly enlarged, and it's got this very strange ridge bone on top of it. And then, where there should be 2 parietal plates, there is only 1 parietal plate. We saw many, many, many skulls down there with these characteristics. We also believe that this is a female skull. The male skulls are about like this, much, much larger, much more robust.
Now, you did an amazing scientific study of different colors of hair. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
Well, the hair on many of these skulls are red. They're sort of a reddish auburn in color. That shouldn't be there.
Why?
According to the Darwinian theory, all these people should have black hair because they came across the Bering Strait 10, 12, 20,000 years ago, whatever. And so these had red hair. But we wanted to see if the hair was dyed. So we took some hair samples, and there's a machine called Raman spectroscopy. What this does is it shows the molecular structure of each of these hairs. So we took a control sample of normal human hair. We took the red hair from the mummy, and then we took a dyed human hair, mm-hmm. and then we took a hair from a man who had claimed to have been abducted by aliens and forced to have sex with a hybrid. So we have 4 hairs. The control sample went like this on a graph, okay? The human hair just went like this. The dyed sample went like this, right through the roof. But here's where it really gets interesting. And in my opinion, it links what happened in antiquity with what's going on today. The days of Noah, the presence of the fallen angels. The red hair and the hybrid hair tracked like this over the graph. The same way, all over the graph to the very end, then it slid off. Now remember, this hair that came off this skull was about 2,500 years old.
So what you're saying is it lines up with not being totally human.
Correct.
Lines up with the Nephilim.
Correct.
That the Bible talks about, where the fallen angels had sex with the women of men. Now, tell me about the research you're doing in Peru, and especially what you found under the Catholic Church.
Well, there's these, in this one particular place called Waitara, which is about 9,000 feet above sea level, literally in the middle of nowhere. There are these ancient megalithic ruins. And on top of these ruins is built a Catholic church.
Help me out. What's a megalithic
I'm sorry.
ruin?
Megalithic ruin is ancient stonework, very large blocks of stone. And we see them all over the world. But what's fascinating about this, when you're in the church, it's a Catholic church, and there's icons and statues and all this. But at the base of the church, about to the 8-foot level, are these ancient stones, which are laid without mortar. And the joinery is so precise, you cannot fit a human hair between the stones. And they are polygonal shape. What I mean by that, many different sided shapes, not one stone is the same. You'd be hard-pressed to achieve that type of masonry in today's world. You could do it, but at what expense? And the technology that was done thousands and thousands of years ago, it defies imagination. Here's a people that really didn't have the wheel, as far as we know, yet they're taking these 4-ton, 10-ton, 20-ton, and even greater blocks of stone, and when they join them, Sid, the sides are completely smooth.
How do you move 20-ton stones without a wheel? I'll get you thinking a little bit.
Absolutely. And I think there's a supernatural component to all of this. And this is where I factor in fallen angels. It's like we see all through Scripture the good angels and what they're able to do. The fallen angels have technology. They have powers. They have supernatural powers that defy what we do here, defy our physics, defy our natural laws. And I think the stones there were shaped, in my opinion, they are fallen angel, or what we call Nephilim architecture.
Now, you see a tie-in with these Nephilim in the last days and the mark of the beast. I want you to hear about this. We'll be right back. Amazing. Between 3,000 and 10,000 years ago, our civilization had electricity? How, L.A., is this possible?
These stones in Waitara that we just talked about, the stones at the base of a Catholic church, have piezoelectric properties. They're highly polished surfaces. They were carved from a quarry, in some cases granite, in other cases andesite. These are just stones. And they're able to, sort of like crystal radios in the 20s and the 30s, that's similar, what they can conduct electricity. What we believe is that there was an ancient grid system over this planet at one point, with points of connectivity. This grid system may have been used not only as a communication, but perhaps to control the weather, to bring rain in, all sorts of things.
How could they have all this sophistication? I mean, just sophistication without a wheel moving
the blocks.
These blocks. What explanation do you have?
Well, you have two. You have one, which is the extraterrestrial, that they came from Zeta Reticuli, which of course I don't believe in. The one I hold to, and hold to very, very fast and diligently, is we are looking at fallen angel technology. And we get some of this in the book of Enoch, which tells us that they came and showed the secrets of heaven to the men and women of earth.
All right, tell me about, in the United States, in Ohio, the Great Circle Mound. First, explain what it is.
The Circle Mound is a henge. It's a very large circle, over 1,250 feet in diameter.
The word henge means?
Henge means this. It's a circle, but it also has a waterway.